Thanks for joining me for episode 6 of my podcast series, Cybersecurity Kept Simple, 24/7, 365. In this episode, we're going to look at passwords and suggest simple steps that we can all take to improve our password hygiene. I will demonstrate commonly used password cracking tools and show how a white hat hacker with a single set of credentials found his way to a law firm's most sensitive client data. Over the years, as part of my duties, I have probably breached around 2,000 devices. I would guess that around 95% of those breaches are as a direct result of poor password practices. I've been in the industry for about 30 years now, and it's disappointing to see people making the same password mistakes that I saw at the start of my career, especially given how devastating cyber attacks are to both individuals and organizations now. Many people choose passwords that are easy to remember, like pet names, sports teams, anniversaries, movies, and so on. Other common emotional and personal influences in password include childhood nicknames, old addresses, pop culture references, and political slogans that reflects that person's views. It is believed that 75% of users are confident in their password habits, with 60% of people reusing passwords. Many users believe they're unlikely to be hacked, with a common thought being, "Why me?" This mentality helps fuel the wave of cybercrime and makes it so much easier for criminals. There were over 19 billion passwords leaked in 2024-2025, with 94% of them considered weak or reused. Incredibly, the password 123456 is still used by almost 5 million people. Automated tools that can crack 1 million passwords in under 3 hours are readily available, and as technology such as quantum computing becomes available, password cracking times will be massively reduced. Good password hygiene is the cheapest and easiest action we can all take to make it harder for cybercriminals. When criminals steal databases, potential victims are at the mercy of how things like passwords are stored within that database. The worst-case scenario is that they're stored in clear text, but more commonly, passwords are likely to be protected. Hashing is used to store passwords securely, and different strengths of hash determine how quickly passwords can be cracked. We can't control the type of hash used on whatever site we are registering with, but we can choose a strong passphrase or securely generated passphrase. The longer the passphrase, the more resistant to cracking it becomes. I personally have had much more success using dictionary attacks than brute force attacks. Many lists are available online of passwords that have previously been captured, and lists can be very granular and even language specific, and as customizable and targeted as a person is willing to make them. In this extreme example of poor password hygiene, a law firm used their get-out-of-jail-free card when this guy found their critical flaws instead of cybercriminals. A self-proclaimed white hat hacker called Francis found a VPN router with its configuration viewable to anybody who knew where to look. Unfortunately for the organization, the administrator had also chosen to store passwords in an insecure format, one which the passwords were obfuscated rather than encrypted. The output is cracked very easily online or by using publicly available tools. Viewing the config, he noticed the router had a VPN peer. Using the credentials he found on the other router, he was able to successfully make a connection to the peer. He then tried to find another host in the network that would prompt him for credentials. It's not long before he finds a PBX system which prompts him for username and password. Although his named account didn't work, his password was the same for the admin or root account on the PBX, which Francis was unsurprisingly able to figure out. He then used this system to find out which ports were listening on the VPN router he was previously unable to access. The difference this time is that he is going to try and access it from the internal side and not the internet-facing side. He was able to access it and also enable access for himself on the external side. The next step was to scan the network behind the first VPN router. Port scanning is typically used to find out what services are running. In this case, he is only looking for hosts which will prompt him for credentials. he is most likely looking for full admin or root access to the servers. Such access is invaluable to attackers and penetration testers, as it allows them to install their own tools in the environment. Because the same credentials are used repeatedly and with no additional forms of authentication required, the white hat hacker is able to successfully log on to each system. In corporate environments, the administrator should have an administrative account with a different password. In this case, the user used his own password for the root password on all servers. Hackers of all shades love to see password habits like this. Once he has a remote desktop via their VPN, he is able to connect to their file server using a common file transfer application. Using the same username and password that he found exposed online, he now has access to all client folders, including detailed billing information and every bit of information associated with each client. A bad actor at this stage could have exfiltrated everything and then encrypted everything left on the file server with ransomware. This organization is a legal firm in a NATO member country and would definitely have been a high-value target for Russian cybercriminals. The firm will never know how lucky they were that Francis found them first. I love the notification. Can you imagine logging in on a Monday morning and seeing a response from the secretary to the email you didn't really send, but it came from your account? If that happened to me, I would drop everything and action it immediately, but incredibly, this guy tried to cover it up. Francis persisted until he finally got their attention and all issues were resolved. Always remember that cyber criminals are con men. Some of them can appear so legitimate that it's very easy to be tricked. A criminal with your banking password may call you pretending to be your bank. They may try and build your trust by claiming to send you a one-time password which you are to verify to prove your identity. That code they want is likely to be the last thing protecting your banking account. Whatever the angle, never give anybody your one-time password, no matter how convincing their story is. If password generators aren't your thing, choose passphrases instead of passwords. The length of the passphrase makes it exponentially more difficult to crack, especially if you add a number, symbol, or uppercase character. A 12-character, easy to remember but hard for somebody else to guess passphrase is ideal. A 12-character lowercase password hashed with SHA-1 will take as long as 3,000 years to crack. Make it a full 94-character set with SHA-512 hash, and the estimated time to crack it is millions of years. I'm a huge fan of MFA, or two-factor authentication. It is cost-effective, easy to use, and so much more secure than static passwords or even passphrases. Consider the network that Francis breached. He would have been stopped dead at the first hurdle if that organization had used multi-factor authentication. The final recommendation for good password hygiene is to regularly check if your email address has been caught up in a breach. The awesome site haveibeenpwned.com allows you to input your email address and it is then checked against known data breaches. As shown in the white hat hack, poor password practices can lead to catastrophic consequences for individuals and organizations. Next time you create a new password or passphrase, spend the extra 30 seconds and make it a good one. I hope you found this episode entertaining and informative. Until next time, stay safe between the wires and don't be an easy victim. Cheers!